I invite you to consider for the sermon topic, not what's in the bulletin, though it will be touched on, but I would invite you to consider the sermon topic, the one less traveled by. The one less traveled by. In my preparation this week and beginning to read portions of the journey to Jerusalem, it reminded me in chapter 4 of the poem that I just read for you. What was interesting enough, as I went back, I knew this poem from, I can't believe it, probably middle school. I'm 47. I don't know when I heard it. But what is interesting to me was the fact that as I was prepping the sermon and this particular poem popped in my spirit, it was until I read it that it's only one line in this poem that says, the one less traveled by. That one line has impacted my life from the time that I was in middle school to now. That poem constantly resonates in my spirit when I make decisions. That poem constantly resonates in my life whenever I'm at a crossroads. That poem resonates, and all I remember from that poem is the one line, the one less traveled by. Maybe the reason that this particular poem stood out in my spirit when I was reading chapter 4 on the journey to Jerusalem, because it's somewhere in this particular part of the journey, I realized that Jesus made a decision to take a route that was less traveled by. You see, in chapter 4 on the journey to Jerusalem, we come into the place in our study where we're looking at Jesus, the outsiders, outcasts, and outlaws in chapter 4. And this particular part of the journey in this book focuses on Jesus's journey to Jerusalem. We are now traveling through Luke, and if you've read the book or if you haven't read the book, Adam Hamilton lifts up that Luke takes us on this journey to Jerusalem that will end in Jesus's death. What we do know in this particular part of the book is that Jesus sets out on the journey to Jerusalem knowing that the end result will be his death. Jesus was traveling on a journey that would take him to a Samaritan village, a village that would refuse him upon his arrival. On this journey, what is interesting is what we know about the journey is despite the road that he is going to travel, Jesus was extremely clear about his assignment. Jesus was clear about the fact that he had to take this journey. Jesus was clear about the fact that it was in this journey that he was going to conclude the end of his assignment in death. Jesus understood that the journey was necessary in order to complete their assignment. The kind of assignment that those who were closest to him did not want to journey with him on. The kind of assignment that he understood that the disciples did not understand. The kind of assignment that the disciples themselves had other expectations on what they felt Jesus should be doing. And the fact that their expectations and what Jesus was actually doing was not in alignment with what they thought it should be. Anybody ever had a point in their lives that you know that Jesus has placed you on an assignment and those closest to you, it's not in alignment with what they think your assignment should be? This is where Jesus finds himself on the journey. Jesus finds himself taking this journey knowing that his life is coming to an end, and those closest to him weren't quite clear about this assignment. And the assignment for Jesus on this journey from Galilee to Jerusalem was not going to be an easy journey. No. The miles from Galilee to Jerusalem were estimated at about 40 miles. Who sets out on a journey to walk 40 miles? Because back then Jesus had no public transportation. He didn't have a car. He knew that not only was he going on an assignment, he was going on an assignment and was going to have to walk through some rugged and rough terrain. Jesus was going to have to walk to his assignment and was going to be in a situation where it wasn't going to be easily received. The trip in itself became because they were walking could take 5 to 9 days, depended on the things that was going to happen in this journey. And the journey for Jesus to Jerusalem included Jesus' ability to teach lessons and deal with parables for the people who he would encounter on this journey. One of the things in my reading that Adam Hamilton said that stood out to me, that even ministered to me when he looked at this, he said he wondered if Mary and Martha would have had a different understanding of their conversation with Jesus if they understood the end of Jesus' assignment. It stood out to me because at that time, Mary and Martha didn't realize that he was going to die. And Adam Hamilton pointed out, would it have taken on a deeper meaning, the conversation that he was having? The reason it really was poignant for me is that I do know that Jesus died. And how do the teachings that we're going through this Lenten journey, how does it take on a deeper meaning for my life? The reality is that Jesus was set out on a journey to Samaria, and from Galilee to Jerusalem, Samaria was set up in the center spot of this journey. And Adam Hamilton said it's not a linear journey. And what I loved about that, it was a place that Jesus knew that it wasn't going to be a direct route. It wasn't going to be just straight from one place to the next. It was going to take some curves. It was going to take some turns. It wasn't going to be a smooth walk. But the reality is, sometime when God gives us an assignment, our assignment isn't a direct route. And Jesus is going to Jerusalem. In order to get to Jerusalem, Jesus would have to make a decision on how he is going to travel through Samaria, because there were two main routes in which Jesus could take. He could take the route that was going to be the fastest way, the route that was called the way of the patriarchs, which would take him right in the center of it all. But going that route through Samaria in the journey meant that Jesus was going to have to make a decision to take that route, which was the fastest, but it was also going to be a route that he wasn't going to be welcomed on. Jesus had to make a decision to take a route that particularly he couldn't avoid, because those in biblical times who were Jews, those who were the majority, those were the ones who said, don't go directly into Samaria, because we fear those people. We want to avoid contact with those people. The Samaritans are not like us. Their faith is not like us. Let's avoid people who are not like us. That only happens in Samaria, right? That doesn't happen in where we live today, where people will have to make a decision on their assignment that will require them to come in contact with people that other folks don't want to be around. Jesus chooses to take the route less traveled by. Jesus chooses to take the route that would take him directly in the center and the thick of it all. Jesus chooses to take a route that is going to put him in the heart, the center of those that other folks don't want to be around. Maybe you don't understand what kind of contact this is, but the kind of contact that Jesus is about to encounter is one that not only is he's going to encounter some unwelcoming, he's going to encounter some folks that the majority don't even want to talk to. Jesus is going to come in contact with some people who have some diseases. The reason that this particular part of the passage stood out to me is that Jesus was going to come in contact with 10 lepers. Men who had leprosy. 10 people who had a skin disease, the kind of skin disease that would cause people to be able to see visible lesions, the kind of disease that would be able to easily identify them because of it could have physical deformities. Jesus chose a route where he was going to come in contact with 10 men who were considered instant outcasts and outsiders. Jesus chose a route that he knew that he would end up coming in contact with people whose issues was already on the surface. Their issues were visible. Jesus chose a route that people needed to see someone who was supposed to see priests in order for them to be healed. Jesus chose a route where he would come in contact with lepers who were not invited into the mainstream. Jesus chose a route where he would come in contact with those who were overlooked and not welcome. Jesus chose a route where people were defined by their situation. He chose a route where people were defined by a condition they could not change. Jesus chose a route where people were ostracized by the community in which they belong. And maybe you can't relate to someone with leprosy, but I can relate. I can relate to being someone who belongs in a community where those around us are not welcoming. Maybe you can't see yourself as an outcast, but maybe you can see what it feels like to be a part of a community where we look down on others. Maybe you can't see it, but I can see that the lepers represent those in which nobody wants to serve, those who are homeless, those, people, we say we want to serve them, but those who see a homeless person and wonder whether they should go left or right. These are the type of people that were outcasts. And Jesus chose the road less traveled, which was going to put him in the thick of those who needed him most. And so he's journeying in a place where he's going to come in contact with outcasts. He's going to journey to a place that we already know that Luke 9:53 says he's not welcome. But Jesus understands his assignment. Church, that's good news this morning, because as I read what Adam Hamilton said about Mary and Martha, the deeper meaning in this text came out to me, that spoke to me. If Jesus is willing to go out and to go into places that no one else is, what are you willing to do? Maybe, like Adam Hamilton said in this chapter, maybe the sermon is just for me. Are you willing to go into places and the communities that the mainstream doesn't want to be a part of? Are you willing to go feed the hungry? Are you willing to step in places that aren't necessarily the safest, to do and to preach the good news of Jesus Christ? Are you willing to go into places where other people are willing to avoid eye contact? Where you are comfortable. And Jesus demonstrates through taking this particular route that he was willing to come in contact with the outsiders. In Luke chapter 17, verses 11 through 19, Jesus is traveling. And he gets to the village in which he knew wasn't going to welcome him. And when he gets into this village, and now he is here, he's faced with these 10 men that I talked about who had less leprosy. 10 that Jesus was going to come in contact. 10 men that knew that Jesus wasn't supposed to be in contact with them as well. And when Jesus gets here and the 10 men meet him, they stand at a distance and they call out in a loud voice, "Master, have pity on us." Now, I'm telling you, that's got to be some kind of situation. Here, they already know who they are. They know they're outsiders. They know their condition. They know that people are to avoid them, that they know that they're not wanted. And then furthermore, Jews and Samaritans weren't even supposed to come in contact. The odds were stacked against him, but God. The odds were stacked against them. And because Jesus chose to choose the route less traveled, they took a chance. But catch this. They knew who they were. They knew their situation. They knew their status. And because they knew it, what I loved about this part of the text is that they stood at a distance. But there's some power in that. Because I can envision the fact that if Jesus, if we were the ones in the 10 lepers, all Jesus needed was to get at least to the door. They understood that they didn't have what it takes and were not supposed to be near him. But even in a distance, they saw the power and the blessing that could come. And when they were in that distance, when they saw Jesus and engaged Jesus, what really makes this impactful was that they cried out. Anybody ever been in a situation where you know there's no one else willing to help you, when you know that there are others who are out to get you, when you know that there are others that have considered you an outcast, and all you got is the hope of Jesus? And they cried out and they called out, and they didn't do it in a whisper. The text says, and it's important to hear the text, because they could have just said, Jesus, have pity on us. No. They said it in a loud voice. They said it in a voice that commanded Jesus' attention. And what I love about this particular book is that in Adam Hamilton's piece on Jesus and outsiders, outcasts, outlaws, outliers, and everything else I've named it, Jesus sees them. Jesus sees the one who's really supposedly not worthy of his visitation. Jesus sees them. But he doesn't just see them. He sees them where they're at. He sees them in the midst of their issues. He sees them in the midst of their condition. He sees them and he engages them. And when he engages them, he gives them a command. He says, go and see the priest, and you will be cleansed. The part that messed me up was, why didn't he go see the priest, Jesus? You standing right here. You're the ultimate healer. You took the route on the journey. You knew you weren't supposed to go that way. Why do they need to go see the priest and watch this? What happened was so profound for me is that because what Jesus was saying, you want your deeper meaning, Tammy? Here's the deeper meaning. When I give you a command, it is your responsibility to follow it. And they followed his command, and because they followed it, he immediately healed them. They didn't need to go see the majority. I'm going to bless somebody with this. A lot of times when people are outcasts, outsiders, outlayers, and outlaws, they think they need the approval of those who are in the majority. But Jesus flips the switch. You don't need them. All you need is the one who sees you. Jesus saw them for who they were. And all he did was require them to do is make a decision. Because Jesus chose the road less traveled. These 10 men were blessed by Jesus's journey. Jesus, it's still, I'm slow. Y'all know I'm slow. Sometimes I have to read chapter 10 times. And I'm mad that Adam Hamilton don't have it in audio version because I need to hear it too, because it takes a minute for stuff to seep in with me. So Jesus is on the journey. He's got to go through the center of Samaria. He's got to go through a place that doesn't welcome him. He's got to go to a place that is a whole bunch of people that are outside of the majority. He's got to go through a place that he knows that people won't receive him. And then he takes the fastest route. So if you're taking the fastest route, why even stop on the journey? Just get to the conclusion. But if he rushes through his assignment, we'll miss the blessing. Church, I want to tell you the good news about this message is Jesus stopping to teach lessons. Jesus stopping to talk to people. Jesus stopping to engage people is a message for us today, is that he not only sees us, he's willing to stop and take time to do for us what other folks won't do. And then the 10 men they're healed by this journey. So that should have been it. They set out to go see the priest. The story should have ended there. Now they're healed. That's the end of the story. The praise team get ready to come, because this is like when it closes. I'm in the last couple of minutes. Tell the people I'm getting ready to close. Because the reality that blesses me was that the outsiders and the outlaws and the outcasts and those who people in the majority say didn't deserve to be seen, Jesus sees them. And after he sees them, he cleanses them and heals them. They're excited about it. They go on their way, but one realizes what has happened. One realizes that Jesus took the time to see him. One realizes that Jesus took the time to stop in a place when no one else wanted to be with him. One realized that Jesus took the time to come see about his situation. One of the 10 realized that Jesus didn't have to do it, but he did. And because he realized it, it's in the text, he goes back and he praises God. He goes back and he worships God, not just for who God is, but for what Jesus did for him. Church, there's a good news in there, because no matter what your situation is, no matter what the majority may have said about you, no matter where you find yourself on the spectrum of outcasts, because all of us in seasons of our lives or in situations can be temporarily or permanently outcast. But the good news that this one leper teaches me is that no matter what's happening in your life, Jesus will not only see you, not only heal you, but we have a responsibility to praise him when he's gone through and done for you. This leper realizes that Jesus blessed him on the journey. The question is, what is your response when Jesus changes your situation? Will you be the 9 or will you be the 1? What will your response be when Jesus goes out of his way and does the unpopular thing and moves you from last in the line to the first in the line? What will your response be? Will you stand in a posture that enunciates to the world, I was blessed by the journey of Jesus? Or will you be the 9? When the one that came back encounters and engages Jesus, praises Jesus and worships him, Jesus doesn't say thank you back. He questions where the other 9 are at. Well, didn't I heal 10 of you all? Didn't I bless 10 of you all? Didn't I deliver 10 of you all? Didn't I make a way for 10 of you all? But the 9 understood that no matter what those around me will do, that when I come in contact with Jesus, it's my responsibility to praise the one who brought me over. Is there anybody in here willing to praise the one who will take the route less traveled to change your situation? And because he acknowledges Jesus, Jesus said, go on your way. Your faith has made you cleansed. The good news is, no matter what you're going through right now, if you just take that one step, if you just take the step to praise and acknowledge him, if you just take the one step to give him glory, if you take the one step to worship him, if you recognize that he sees you in the midst of what you're going through and you honor him for that, you can go on your way, because your faith has made you whole. As the praise team sings the song of reflection, I want to challenge you. I told you the poem, the last line in the road, or the stanza with the road less traveled by, Jesus takes the road less traveled by. But Robert Frost says, and that's the one that makes all the difference. Jesus finishing his assignment despite others' expectations of him, despite the fact he knew where he had to go in order to get to his end destination. It makes all the difference. It makes all the difference because today we have a risen Savior. One who accepts us no matter what community we belong to, no matter what our issues, conditions, or situations are in. But I challenge you to ask yourself, will you engage Jesus in your situation? And will you worship him when he brings you out? Amen.
Just want to speak the name of Jesus for every heart and every mind. I know there is peace within your presence. I speak Jesus. I just want to speak the name of Jesus. Every accusation starts to break. There is hope and there